Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This will be my full Last of Us Episode 7 video. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references to the game, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes, and careful for spoilers for the episode if you haven't seen it yet. We'll start at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments. Starting with the title, Left Behind, it's a reference to the DLC from the first game that explains Ellie's backstory. It's primarily focused on Ellie and Riley, but just like you saw in the episode, it jumps back and forth between the present day when she's trying to take care of Joel to keep him from bleeding out, and back in her past. Primarily, it's focused on the events of their adventure in the abandoned shopping mall in the Boston quarantine zone and the events of Riley's death that wound up traumatizing Ellie even more than she already was. But the way they end the episode on the cliffhanger there, they don't actually show you what happens to Riley after that. Like, they end on a bit of a cliffhanger with her back in present day trying to fix Joel. So I don't know if that's the last time we've ever seen Riley or if they'll cover the rest of that in a future episode, because there's still more flashbacks that we haven't seen yet that were in the early trailers. The actual opening scene picks up in present day in the snowy suburbs nearby just after the end of episode 6, with Ellie having drugged Joel to an abandoned house. You can see the horse in there in the house with her, which is smart of her to do because it'll keep the raiders that attack them from spotting them, and it'll keep the horse from wandering off while she's dealing with Joel. But he has lost a ton of blood. He's on the edge of death. Like, you see him breathing, they want to let you know that he's still alive, but he's barely alive. He tries to get her to leave him behind and return to Tommy's settlement in the north. That's what he whispers to her, "Go north to Tommy." They do plan on going back eventually, but that was meant to be after their current mission of finding the Fireflies. Like, Joel did tell Tommy that he planned to come back and make a home at his settlement. And even though they haven't had that literal conversation yet, like, what does the future hold for the two of us together in a relationship? Like, are we going to live together in a household? Are we going to make a family together? When they came back together at the end of last week's episode, they kind of implied that they started to think of each other more closely, and things would probably head in that direction, but they haven't literally said that to each other yet. And the way they edited this part of the episode, the way she puts her hand on the door to leave the room, if you haven't played the video game before, they kind of want you to think she might actually leave him behind. Because the title of the episode is Left Behind, but as we find, it's more of a reference to Riley's character. Really though, she's just leaving the room to look for more supplies to close his wound, which she doesn't find till the end of the episode. Then they flash back to the events before episode 1. It's not that long ago, within a year or so of episode 1, maybe a little bit less than that. The music track they pick up on is a super deep cut. It's Pearl Jam's All for None, and it's meant to be a metaphor for Ellie's current life in the Boston quarantine zone. Life is hopeless for her, like the lyrics in the song say. It's the apocalypse, humanity is fighting a losing battle, and most have given up and are just wasting away, just going through the motions. She has no real prospects other than becoming part of the Fedra system. The school she's in is controlled by Fedra. It's used as a glorified training program for new Fedra soldiers. The funny thing is, Marlene told her in episode 1, "I'm the one that put you in that Fedra school to keep you safe." Not because she wanted her to become part of Fedra, but because she knew that would be the safest place for her. But the whole idea with this Fedra school is that they have these in all the different quarantine zones, and they use it as a glorified training program for new Fedra soldiers because their current soldiers keep dying off either to fights, accidents, or the fungus, so they need new blood. They need fresh meat for the grinder, so to speak. So any new kids born in the quarantine zone usually get thrown into this system, or they explain they wind up becoming bottom feeders, basically doing these really menial tasks, really crappy jobs for crappy rations. Life in general is meant to be terrible for everyone, but even more terrible for people who aren't working for Fedra. At this point in the timeline, Ellie doesn't know she's immune. That doesn't happen till way later when they get attacked by the Stalker, and she doesn't wind up turning like a normal person. And they didn't even show that in this episode, so I wonder if there's going to be a part 2 to these flashbacks. We'll see. At this point though, she just thinks she's like every other normal kid living in the quarantine zone. The girl who hazes her during their gym class for running too slow isn't supposed to be Abby from the games. The episode credits her as Bethany. She's just meant to be a random foil for Ellie. Abby is a huge antagonist, but it's during the Last of Us 2 game, so the show will have to introduce her in Season 2 or Season 3 at some point. She was the daughter of the lead doctor of the Fireflies in Salt Lake City, Utah during the events of the first game, which they are doing for Season 1. So we'll probably meet him at the end of Season 1, but I'm not expecting to meet Abby at least until Season 2. They might reference her at the end of the season though. There were a bunch of references to the second game, which they'll cover in Season 2 during Episode 6. So even this early on the show, they're already referencing stuff from Season 2 and Season 3. Ellie's friend that the girl references is Riley, obviously, who's disappeared because she's dropped out of the Fedra school and joined the Fireflies, but Ellie doesn't learn that till later when Riley returns after being gone for a little while. Her whole thing about fighting back is meant to show you the anger that she keeps inside her that starts to manifest more when she's with Joel. A really good example of that is when they first encounter the hunters in Kansas City and she has to save Joel. When she's got her gun on the hunter, you look at the excitement on her eyes that flashes for a second before she gets really scared. That's her feeding off of the crazy energy and the violence here. The showrunner Neil Druckmann talked about this too. She's got this violence inside her that's meant to be kind of like Joel's violent tendencies, especially the way Joel was in the past, the terrible stuff that Tommy said they did while they were with the hunters before arriving in the Boston quarantine zone. So once Ellie left at the beginning of the season with Joel, they start running into these dangerous groups and situations and things get really violent really fast. It starts to excite her more. Like the two of them, Ellie and Joel need each other, metaphorically and literally, because she doesn't quite have the skills needed to survive a journey across the United States by herself yet. She's getting a little bit better. She got a little bit better last week's episode. And Joel, for example, needs her to help him survive literally this near fatal wound or save him from the hunters. And they also need each other's emotional support, like they show you Joel growing as a person, like becoming more of a person, so to speak, feeling all the feelings. So while they have all that positive father-daughter relationship stuff developing, on the negative side of that, both of them kind of feed off of each other's violence in a toxic kind of way. Like just being with Joel didn't make her more violent. She already had that in her, and they kind of bring that out of each other a little bit in situations like this. She gets hauled to the federal office, and the picture of his wife and daughter remind her of how alone she is. It's meant to be a metaphor for the end of the episode too, when she thinks that Riley is going to abandon her. Remember, the title of the episode is Left Behind. It's all about being left behind or leaving things behind. They reveal Ellie's been in the hole at least 3 times. Remember, this is the apocalypse. She's only about 13 years old when this is happening because she doesn't start out with Joel till she's about 14. So it's a good picture of just how bad society has gotten in general, putting a 13-year-old in solitary confinement, prison style. When he gets real with her about her future prospects, it's either become part of the Fedra system, become an agent, or live a life similar to one of the randos that you saw in episode 1, like what Joel was doing, those random jobs. Now, obviously, Joel had a lot of stuff going on the side. He's a smuggler with Tess, but all the regular jobs that he was pulling on the side just looked total crap. The way he's trying to sell her on it, he's basically saying your life could be slightly less crap or totally crap. Those are your 2 options. How much crap do you actually want? Which you could also make a reference to Riley later in the episode when she says she literally was given the job of managing sewage in the Boston quarantine zone, like literally managing the crap of the Boston quarantine zone. He references the Fireflies, catching a bullet from one of them. That's because they're super militant, which they show you later in the episode because Riley's been constructing pipe bombs for them. They go after Fedra all the time. You saw that a little bit in episode 1. When Marlene was planning on breaking Ellie out at the beginning of the season, they planned a massive diversion. Normally, they take more guerrilla tactics, more isolated incidents, like blowing up cars that you saw where Tess was being held. They do stuff like that all the time. They also try to use this conversation with the Fedra agent to get you to sympathize more with them, because not all of them are meant to be total dirtbags, like some of them are trying to hold humanity together, although the way Riley tells it, the agent here, this agent, wanted her on crap to tail. So he is a little bit of a dirtbag. When he tells Ellie one day she could be a leader, he sees potential in her, that's foreshadowing for present day when she actually does have to take charge and save Joel. Also foreshadowing for much later, like beyond the events of the games, when she could potentially become a bigger leader to the survivors. We'll see if they make the Last of Us 3 game, maybe they'll cover some of that during that game. Inside her bedroom, while they're panning across the walls, all of her stuff, the camera lingers on a baseball bat that made me think of the infamous baseball bat from The Last of Us 2. I won't say more about that because it gets into huge spoilers, so if you have played the games, please don't post spoilers for that in the comments. The dinosaur on her wall is an Easter egg for the dinosaurs Joel shows Ellie in a museum that they pass through, which is also in the second game, and there are several more mentions of dinosaurs later in the episode too. We see her Will Livingston Book of Puns, but it's volume 1, not the one that she has later. That's volume 2, and it's given to her by Riley as a gift later, which we saw in the future in previous episodes when she's reading to Joel. The camera also lingers on her pocket knife, which she winds up using later to kill the stalker at the end of the episode. Like, this is going to come in real handy real soon. She's reading one of her Savage Starlight comic books, which they've referenced several times in the Henry and Sam episode, R.I.P. The actual plot of the Savage Starlight comics are usually meant to be metaphors for Ellie and Joel's adventures, but in this context for this episode, it's more of a metaphor for Ellie and Riley's adventure together because she hasn't met Joel yet, and in the comic book issue, they talk about breaking into this secret area. That's what they do in the episode, breaking into the abandoned mall. There are a couple movie posters on her wall. There's a Red Planet movie poster and one for the lunar phases of the moon, which is a reference to her wish to travel to the moon, become an astronaut someday like her hero, Sally Ride, which she just told to Joel. The poster behind her is for Inner Space, which is about a group of characters shrinking down Ant-Man style, like we just got Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania in the movie theaters. Inside that movie, they do something similar. They shrink down to go into someone's body to save them, which is also meant to be a reference to her immunity, her condition, and saving Joel's life in present day. You also remember that culture in the world froze in 2003, so there wouldn't be any movie posters or pop culture from after that. The empty bed used to be Riley's before she dropped out and joined the Fireflies. She's got a couple old cassette tapes for her Walkman, a-ha's Greatest Hits, which they play later in the episode. Also the Etta James tape. I can't see the name of the middle one, but the Etta James is also from the Last of Us Left Behind DLC game too. Most of the episode is pretty close to what they did in the games. They even have the Mortal Kombat 2 poster, which is a big video game reference and an Easter egg that they pay off later in the episode and earlier in the season when she sees different versions of the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade machine. The actual poster is meant to have belonged to Riley. She's the person who was the huge Mortal Kombat stan. I believe Mortal Kombat made it into the video games because the people who made the video games at Naughty Dog were just fans of the Mortal Kombat games. Them playing the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade machine later in the episode at the arcade is also taken directly from that part of the video game. There's a couple more pictures of rocket ships meant to be more references to astronauts and going to outer space. Then we actually meet Riley when she returns, played by Storm Reed, who you'll probably recognize from a bunch of other stuff. She explains how she joined the Fireflies. At this point, Ellie doesn't really know Marlene or the Fireflies yet, but like I said, Marlene definitely knows Ellie. Right now, Ellie really only knows what other people say about the Fireflies. Generally, they mistrust them because they're so violent. They do all these crazy things all over the Boston quarantine zone, so she doesn't take them that seriously. As they leave to go to the abandoned mall, you see the paleontology book near them too on her nightstand. That's meant to be another one of the many dinosaur references in the episode and previously in the season. The 7-Eleven eyebrow joke that they make in the alleyway is probably a reference to an earlier fight that they had at some point at a 7-Eleven where one of them lost an eyebrow. They make it sound like they get in a bunch of fights. Riley's whole speech about picking and choosing what's important to fight for, not trying to fight for everything, is all about the Firefly missions that she's now taken upon herself, focusing their aggression, all their time, on the Firefly's specific missions. The Carol that they mentioned that Riley formerly put in the hospital isn't meant to be someone from the games, she's just someone that Riley beat the crap out of in the past. They find the dead guy with the booze and the pills, probably a bad idea to get so close to dead people. Some of you may have picked up on this though, the super rare booze from before the fungus and the pills are meant to be a reference to Joel because he would have gotten those from Joel, especially the pills. That's what we saw him selling to the guard in episode 1. Joel and Tess's primary thing before he met Ellie were being smugglers trading and stuff like this. Them drinking from the bottle also meant to be a reference to her asking for Joel's flask. The whole moment here, especially with the dead body, reminded me a lot of Stand By Me. Like, do you want to see a dead body? Ellie bothers Riley for her gun a bunch of times the same way that she bothers Joel in present day for a gun until she eventually proves herself worthy. When Riley's explaining how she met Marlene, the joke about her being super old, like I don't know, she's some super old person, 40 or 50, is a reference to the games because Merle Dandridge, the actress who plays Marlene on the show, is the same person who plays Marlene in the games, and the original game was published about 10 years ago. She's about 10 years older now, almost in her 50s. The actress even joked about how she aged into the proper age for playing Marlene. Like in the game, Marlene is supposed to be about that age, but when she played her in the video game originally, she was way younger. Later, Riley explains how Marlene recruited her, like she saw how she hated Fedra and Riley left because she had been given the literal crap detail. Like it wasn't even a metaphor. She was literally supposed to be watching sewage for the rest of her life. You get to pick the Fireflies or watching crap for the rest of time. Pretty hard choice to make there. When they enter the abandoned mall, this is all right out of the video game. They start down the escalators. It's meant to be Ellie's first time experiencing an escalator, which is why her mind is so blown. They also start playing that a-ha song, which is a reference back to the a-ha tape that she has. She also plays that song on her guitar during the Last of Us 2 game. Most of the songs that they use on the show and the covers that they use are meant to be taken directly from the video games. There's another huge video game Easter egg, super deep cut here on the movie posters and the theater marquee. The Dawn of the Wolf movies are part of the video games. Joel talks about watching them with his daughter when she was still alive. Also, the plot is meant to be similar to the plot of the games. The protagonists are meant to be metaphors for Joel and Ellie. Ellie joking about the lingerie from Victoria's Secret with Riley is meant to be a reference to their relationship, which they kind of pay off at the end of the episode before things go completely to crap, so to speak, as they both get attacked by the stalker. Everything with the carousel was also a huge part of the video game too, her mind also blown by it because she's never been on a carousel before. The tune that was playing while they were riding around sounded a little bit like another cover of that same a-ha song. All the rabbit mentions and the rabbit pictures in the photo booth are meant to be references for the rabbit from the game that Ellie kills while hunting for herself and Joel while he's recovering from his wounds. There was also a reference in last week's episode to the rabbit meme, which is also based on that same moment in the games. The fourth wonder Riley takes her to is the video game arcade, and this is also right out of the game where they play the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade machine. The whole joke about the paper money when she's looking for coins to use in the arcade machines is because paper money is essentially worthless in the apocalypse. That's why it's lying around like it's nothing, like Monopoly money. There was also a subtle reference to this back during episode 3 when Bill mentioned something similar like how much something was worth, and he said, currently it's worth nothing because there's no real economy like there used to be. The actual economy around the world post-fungus is mostly a bartering and trade-based economy where people just trade important things like medicine, food for other things. Riley admits to spending about an hour the previous day breaking the coin machine so that they could actually play the games. Later, she also admits to living in this area and being posted here by Marlene as part of their Firefly missions. So she's actually been staying here for a while, getting better and better at the Mortal Kombat 2 game, which is why she's so much better than Ellie. And this is basically the first time that Ellie's probably played a video game or even seen one. They do still have video games, movies, television shows on Blu-ray, DVD, things like that in the apocalypse. Like Tommy said in last week's episode, we're getting ready to watch a movie and they watch The Goodbye Girl. It's just that nobody is making new games, new movies, new TV shows. It's all old stuff. Also, probably not a lot of TVs, home video game consoles lying around the quarantine zones. If you've never played Mortal Kombat, the Deadpool isn't meant to be a reference to Marvel's Deadpool, it's just the name of the room that the characters are actually fighting in. Nearby in another store, a stalker wakes up when it hears the noise that they're making. Stalkers are the second stage of the infection. They're a little more powerful than runners, but not quite as bad as clickers. Then Riley gives her her gift, which is the second book of puns that she's been reading in present day to Joel. The cannibal pun that she mentions first also kind of a reference to what'll probably wind up happening in next week's episode, episode 8, when we'll see a confirmed Troy Baker cameo. He's playing one of the cannibals from the games, which Ellie winds up running into in present day while she's trying to nurse Joel back to health and look for food. I love that they don't know what screenshots are because they've never used computers. Remember, both of them grew up after the fungus hit in 2003, so they're all kinds of stuff that they've never experienced or seen. Ellie finds the pipe bombs that Riley's been making as part of her missions for the Firefly. She reveals Marlene posted her here. It's all part of their day-to-day for fighting Fedra. And reveals that Marlene is sending her to the Atlanta quarantine zone, but Marlene said that she couldn't take Ellie with her, so tonight's supposed to be her last night in Boston, and this is like a last hurrah. She's saying goodbye to her. Even though we know she doesn't wind up going to Atlanta because she essentially says, okay, fine, I'll stay. Which makes it sound like Riley planned to leave the Fireflies to be with Ellie, which is why the ending is meant to be so tragic for the two of them. We almost had it all, then the stalker came to get us. Riley explained that she thought the Fireflies could be like her new family, and unlike Ellie, she actually remembers what it was like having a family, like a mother and a father. Ellie's mother died when she was extremely young, which is also another big cameo from the video games. She's going to be played by Ashley Johnson, who voiced Ellie in the video games. We've seen her in the trailers, so they'll have to show her either in episode 8 or episode 9, because there are only 9 episodes in season 1. When they start dancing, she gives her the Wolfman mask. That's meant to be another reference to the Dawn of the Wolf movies in the games. And the song that Riley plays is meant to be from the Etta James tape that Ellie has. It's the Etta James version of I've Got You, Babe, which is also from the Last of Us Left Behind DLC. Like, they use the same song in the video game. Most people remember the song from the Sonny and Cher version. They did the original version of the song. Etta James covered it later. They kiss, but then get attacked by the stalker, with both of them being infected after Ellie eventually kills him. That's why Riley flipped a little. She sees that Ellie's been bitten, and then Ellie sees the same thing that Riley's been bitten too. And at least at this point, Ellie doesn't know she's immune, Riley doesn't know that she's immune either. They both think that they're definitely going to die. They debate on whether or not to kill themselves before the infection can take them. Ellie is the one that wants them to shoot themselves. Riley gives her this big call to action, though, about never giving up no matter what. It's meant to be a version of the speech she gives her in the game. Pretty much all their major scenes together, all the speeches, the dialogue they have, are taken directly from the game.
There are a million ways we should have died before today. And a million ways we can die before tomorrow. But we fight for every second we get to spend with each other.
But we don't quit. It's 2 minutes. Or 2 days. We don't give that up.
which is meant to inform some of her behavior in the future and the end of the episode when she doesn't give up on Joel. They've already implied that Riley is dead in present day and something terrible winds up happening to her, but they don't show you in this episode, so I don't know if they plan on doing that later in the season or if this is all we're getting for Riley flashbacks. But they end the episode back in present day with Ellie finding thread and a needle to close Joel's wound, and then they fade to the credits. And essentially the title Left Behind is meant to be a reference to Ellie having to leave her childhood behind, so to speak, like she has to grow up real fast, but she also had to leave her closest friend, Riley, behind too. And she's not leaving Joel behind. So a lot of people and things being left behind and not left behind during the episode. Overall, it was a pretty solid episode. There's still a bunch of plot that they have to cover. Like I said, there's only 9 episodes in the season. What'll happen is my episode 8 trailer video will post tomorrow, and then my full episode 8 video will post next week after they release it. And big reminder, Pedro Pascal into the Pascalverse. The Mandalorian Season 3 episodes, starring Pedro Pascal, start this week. My full Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 1 video will post on Wednesday after they release that. If you spotted any other Easter eggs or references in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. Everyone click here for my Last of Us Episode 8 video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that. And click here for my Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 1 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.